Yeah, it's Monday, ain't it? I guess we got to do a show, don't we?
It's also pollen season. Yay.
Yeah. I am getting my ass kicked right now by it. But that's all right. Because champions rise to the occasion, he said after taking a break for a coughing fit mid-sentence. That's pretty cool.
Tactical. Very awesome how you did that.
Had to deploy the tactical cough button. Still in play. Back in play. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Monday. Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. What's happening, y'all? Great to be back with you again. I am Rob Brown, the great Alonzo, on the other side of the glass, both literally and metaphorically, as he is every day. No, I don't want to talk to you right now, it turns out. I have more important things to do. Let's get to it, folks. What a weekend in sports. We had a great NASCAR race yesterday afternoon that none of you watched. So I might talk about it. I might not. I don't know. Another day. I was going to say big day in baseball negotiations. They're not big days. They're just another days. And we are now a day or two away from having another 2 weeks of Major League Baseball outright canceled because these clowns can't come to an agreement.
Did they negotiate on weekends or did they take the weekend off? Did they?
They did.
Wow. This must be important.
I was going to say, I guess at least they get a little bit of credit for working on the weekends, which was not what they were doing in December and early January, right? Work that really intense 2 to 4 hours, 4 days a week, then head home and look at you now. I don't know about you, Lonzo. I'm a huge procrastinator, right? I know, shocking. I know. But I'm a major procrastinator. It is the number one personality flaw about myself that I know I need to fix, and I'll get around to it.
By the way, if you want to see my shocked look on my face, go to the Facebook page, ESPN Upstate, and a bunch of other places, YouTube and stuff. And here we go.
Yeah, watch the stream live. That's Lonzo's shocked face right there when I tell him I'm a procrastinator. Which I meant to tell him last Thursday, but,
Yeah.
Anyway. Baseball and the Players Association are showing you right now, ladies and gentlemen, why procrastination is a bad thing. We're going to talk about that coming up here in just a little while. Gamecock baseball fans, not a great weekend for you. Clemson baseball fans, I assume that your floors are all very neat and tidy, consider you busted out the broom this weekend. Clemson baseball puts the 3-game sweep down on the Gamecocks this weekend. The list of things that went right for South Carolina is as followed. That's it.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't let that go too long.
That's it.
Alarms go off and stuff.
Yeah. Remind me when I edit this segment down later to leave that silence in to make a point. I cut out all the other silence so the 14-minute segments become like 7 because apparently that's how much I don't talk when I'm on the air. But that's the 3 or 4 seconds has got to get left in for point-making purposes. So we'll come around to that later on in the show.
I can't promise that it won't be deleted from the podcast.
Oh, it will be. It's fine. They'll get the point.
I'll try to remember, but that's,
They'll get the point. The point's been made. So we'll jump into that in a little while. ACC and SEC men's college basketball tournament brackets are out. We'll take a look at the brackets coming up later on in the show. Speaking of brackets, the South Carolina women's basketball team made it to the SEC finals and then lost their second game of the season. Kentucky takes the SEC tournament championship away from Don's Gals. And there are 2 things that came out of that L that I very heavily suspect, that Miss Dawn Staley is going to be addressing with the ladies back in Columbia at practice this afternoon. I took 2 lessons away from that game. 2 things that South Carolina must recognize heading into the women's NCAA bracket if they want a chance to win a national championship game. I'll tell you what the 2 lessons were coming up later on in the radio broadcast. On the men's side, I was asked what would it take for South Carolina to get in? Make the finals of the SEC tournament. And good luck with that. But that's pretty much it. Clemson, same story on the ACC side. Just waited too long to make a move. We're going to talk about that later on in the show as well. And we have got an absolute barrage of Carolina Panthers updates for you that came out from the weekend. We're going to jump into all of that coming up here in a minute as well. But before we get there, we got to get you the top 3 items of the day. We got to get you the lunch breakdown.
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
You guys are here.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
It's the lunch breakdown of 3 things you have to know before you go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworkers, or the dog, whoever you spend your lunch break with. When you gather around the lunch table today, this will be the scuttlebutt. These will be the items that you are discussing with you and yours, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to it. Item numero uno on the lunch breakdown today. At this point, I feel like I could just Control V, Control C, baseball met again and got nothing done into the number 1 slot on the lunch breakdown, because it feels like every day for the past 2 weeks, the number 1 point on the lunch breakdown has been baseball met again and again, got nothing done. MLB is expected by the end of this week to cancel at least 1 more week of regular season games after negotiations Sunday broke down and provided little movement toward a deal to end what is now a 3-month, 95-day lockdown. Now, there were some tiny incremental movements within the negotiations. The biggest change was that the players union gave MLB as part of a larger deal. These are not standalone permissions. These must be worked into the ultimate deal that is agreed upon by both sides. The biggest change was that the players union gave the MLB the right to implement rule changes with a 45-day notice instead of a full year, permit a pitch clock, and banned the shift. The shift is no mas if the players are going to strike a deal with the ownership, at least according to yesterday's negotiations. The players also said that they would allow MLB to enlarge the bases starting in 2023. We do not know what the new dimensions would be. I got no issue with that one chunk of it. Primarily because we saw a number of players last year have to exit ball games. Some of them missed significant time because 2 dudes stepped on the same part of the base at the same time and somebody's ankle got snapped. And you don't want that happening. So if you expand the base, let's say an inch and a half, yes, there are going to be some spots where very close plays now give an advantage to the base runner because there is another inch and a half less ground that they have to cover towards each base. Makes it a little tougher on the defender, but a good distance gone in preventing injuries. So that's the one that I had no issue with. Pitch clock. I got no issue with the pitch clock either, right? They used the pitch clock in some of the minor league games over the past couple of years, and it was the math done by Major League Baseball said that it shortened the games up from an average of 3 hours and 10 minutes to an average of 2 hours and 40 minutes. So you're saving about a half hour of game time per game if you put a pitch clock into play. Now, there's going to be questions about how the pitch clock is operated. For instance, the timing on it. There were different times used. 20 seconds when there was a runner on base, 15 if no runners were on. It looks like the agreement is a 17-second/14-second time clock. That is to say, if there is a runner on the bag, the pitch clock is set at 17 seconds. If there is no runner on the bags, then the pitch clock would be 14 seconds. I do not know how the rule operates if the pitcher does a pickoff move, right? Does that reset the clock? I don't know. I'm going to do the research to see if this is included in the deal or not. We will see. I don't love the idea of banning the shift, right? The players have said, we will allow you to ban the shift if it is part of the overall deal. I don't understand why you would give that up, right? Like, I understand if you're primarily an offensive player. If you're a guy known for the bat, not the glove, then it makes sense because hitting into the shift is harder. If you're a guy who is known to push 90% of the rocks you hit out to right field, then of course I'm going to throw 5 defenders on the right-hand side and make you try to pull it to the left. Of course I am. I don't love that they would get rid of the shift. I think it takes some of the strategy out. The thought here is that by banning the shift, making players play in the traditional position will increase the number of non-home runs that are hit, right? The number of non-home runs that go into play. As batting averages have decreased across the league, some people think it may have something to do with the increase in the number of defenses that play the shift. So that would go away as well. And Lonzo wins, at least for 2023. The players have said no to an automated strike zone. The players have said no to the robo-umps, at least for this season.
Take that, evil, mechanical, artificial intelligent overlords. We have won at least one battle.
Was your robo-implemented brain chip misfiring over there for a second? You're like hitting yourself in the headphones.
It's on the edge of a cough.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was able to.
You were powering through it.
I was suppressing, but yeah.
Is that how you do it? You hit yourself in the ear?
I didn't. I went like this. It was actually helping my brain to try to fight through the pollen-induced headache.
I got it. All right, we're going to come back to that later on in the show. Item number 2 on the lunch breakdown. We told you about this one early last week, but now it is officially on the table, so we bring it up again. A proposed rule change, according to Heather Denich, who covers college football for ESPN, would allow conferences to appeal targeting fouls called in the second half of games in order to avoid the carryover penalty of sitting out the first half of the next game. The Rules Committee, which began meeting last Wednesday, are still in meetings now, also proposed a reporting and investigation process to address teams that are awarded an injury timeout when a player is believed to have faked an injury. If the Playing Rules Oversight Panel approves the rule changes on April 20th at their final meeting, the new rules would go into play this year. If a team believes a targeting call was erroneous, I don't know why I felt the need to emphasize that word, erroneous. It's a good word, though.
I'm trying to figure out why you chose that particular accent.
Erroneous. I have no idea.
Okay.
If a team believes the targeting call was erroneous, its conference would be allowed to submit a request to Steve Shaw, the NCAA's national coordinator of officials, for review. If it is obvious the player was incorrectly penalized, the call would be overturned and the player would be cleared for the first half of the next game. Shaw said, quote, if past year is an indicator, it will only be a handful of calls. But even if it's only a handful, if that's a student athlete having to sit out a game on a situation where there was an error, we should correct that if we can. As it stands, every targeting foul is already reviewed by replay. And since there are no stands, the officials have to either confirm all aspects of the targeting foul or overturn it. That is to say, when there is a targeting call, there's no such thing as the play calls his stance, right? The referees either have to say, we got it correct or we did not. There is no gray area. It must be ruled a definite targeting. And if it cannot be, then it must be overruled. So there's not a lot of errors according to Steve Shaw as it stands right now. But we will see if this comes into play next year. The fake injury rule is what I am very intrigued in overall because, A, how are you going to decide, right? How are you going to decide? How are you going to figure it out? How are you going to come to the conclusion that a player had faked an injury or not? That's my big question. And the answer is I don't know if you can, right? I don't know if you can. I've told you in the past, in any given decision, there are two factors that come into play for the decision-making process of any entity connected to the NCAA. Number one, how much money will it make us? And number two, are we going to err on the side of safety when we can, right? And this is a situation where you're going to. Now, if you get a situation where a dude's on the ground doing the old Peter Griffin, and then the whistle blows, and then all of a sudden he hops up and jogs off to the sideline, I think you got a hint. But most guys are smart enough not to do that. And if you are a coach who is going to coach your guys to fake injuries, you are going to coach them. Don't come up looking like you're not hurt.
See, if someone's down there doing the Peter Griffin, I'm thinking a grazing was involved. And with the grazing, there is no scientific way to prove how long that pain will last.
Yeah.
It could be lengthy. It could be boom. When it's gone, it's just gone. It doesn't linger. If it lingers, you might need to go to the tent.
Do you have to let it linger? Do
No,
you have to?
no,
Do you
what-
have to?
what-
Do you have to let it linger?
What I'm saying is the pain from a grazing can linger or it can just disappear. It just suddenly there's just no pain down there anymore.
I was just trying to quote the Cranberries.
Ah, okay. Which are being discussed
Got me wrapped around your finger.
a bunch today. I don't know if this is when
Do
she.
you have to let
yeah.
it linger? Do you have to? All right, that's enough Cranberries for the show. Zombie.
See, I'm familiar with that. And there's one other song I'm familiar with. I forget, but not that
Texter
one.
says, "Hey Rob, say penalized again." Penalized. It's penalized. Now I can't even say it right because you're all up in my head, Texter. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I don't know how the fake injury rules are going to come out of play. We'll talk about that later in the show. And finally, item number 3, and I did this one because I wanted to. Ladies and gentlemen, Charlotte FC played their first home match at Bank of America Stadium on Saturday. And Charlotte FC, Lonzo, in one game, now has broken Major League Soccer's attendance record. They had 74,479 fans in attendance when they took on the LA Galaxy Saturday night. That number defeated, as most teams do, Atlanta. 73,019 was the previous attendance record. That was set during the 2018 MLS Cup at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Atlanta has also held the previous regular season attendance record at 72,548 back in 2019. Now, the MLS attendance record overall, regular and postseason, belongs to Charlotte FC, the silver and blue. Hang on to that record. Look, it's probably too early, Lonzo, to determine if this team's any good. They played 2 matches. They're 0-2. They lost 3-0 in their opener. They lost 1-0 in that game. But I will also go so far as to tell you that the goal that the Galaxy scored to win that game 1-0 was one of the most remarkable regular time MLS goals I've seen in a very long time. That goal, according to ESPN data and analytics, had about a 0.3% chance of scoring from the position it was taken on the field. Somehow it snuck in. They are 0-2, look dramatically better at home in front of 74,000 and some change that he did when they got smoked against LAFC in the opener. I don't know if the team is good or not. For David Tepper's sake, he better hope it is. And here's why. Actually, you know what? I'm going to tell you when we come back, because I just looked at the clock. I am going to talk about that next. Texter says, you missed a hell of a time. There were more people at that game than any Panthers game I've ever been to. I bet you there were more people at that game than any Panthers game in the last 3 or 4 years. Almost 75,000. I saw the Panthers on TV, guys. There's video evidence. They weren't bringing 74K. I'll tell you why this is big. and what needs to go right for Charlotte FC next on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
So what you're saying is you couldn't tell that I actually just lost.
No,
what
I
was saying.
didn't know what was going on.
So it was masterful. So then I busted myself out.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
You have sold yourself out. I genuinely, when you told me you were coughing, I genuinely believe that. I'm just like, I've never heard anybody stop themselves from coughing and slapping themselves in the face.
I'm laughing at Frisbee's response. Keep in mind, Steven, it's year 2, and he's finding himself in many different ways. By the next Batman, he'll be a totally different Bruce Wayne because he also developed within.
I was going to say, because
yeah.
you got to develop Bruce too. So, is this spoilery?
No, because it's an opinion on whether you like the character or not. At least I don't think it's spoilery.
I think it only works in that it's early Batman, right? Like if this is later stage Batman, it doesn't work.
I'm waiting for the comparisons between him and Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3. It's probably out there already. If not, did you see the video of the kid doing that?
So good, right?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Good. That kid's amazing. You know what I thought about? I was talking about the Batman with somebody else who had seen it over the weekend, and I figure out the next Batman movie that I want. The next Batman movie that I want is just Batman and how he gets all of his gear. Like, I know it comes from Wayne Tech, but like, he has all these souped out Batmobiles. Those pieces are cataloged. You can't just take them.
Well, which, by the way, he had nothing to do with
Wayne Tech.
With anything that was starting to develop too. I mean, there's a lot of things that are starting to happen. He had been, mentioned, kind of gone from society. So this is him. He just got back from his journey to learn how to do all the stuff that he's learned how to do.
Also, I want that Bruce in the what is it? Ra's al Ghul's organization.
League of Shadows.
Yes.
How do we know he's not?
Fair enough.
Or was? I mean, that's the thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I thought I just saw Jericho was trending. I hope he's okay, man.
Bro.
Yeah, that looked bad.
Bro. Eddie connected with one of those back fists.
I'm talking about when he landed on his head at the very beginning.
Right, the very first move. So Charlotte FC sells out. Well, I don't know if they sold it out or not, but they broke the MLS attendance record, 74,479 in attendance for their first home match at BOA as they took on LA Galaxy. They lose 1-0, but the one that Galaxy scored is going to be shown on highlight reels for years. Phenomenal goal from the Galaxy to defeat the Queen City Club. Couple of things. That's one of those. That's one of those experiences, right? Like, I really wanted to make it up there. I just could not. I wanted to be in the stadium Saturday night for their opening match. I just could not make it work, unfortunately. Not next weekend, but I think the weekend after that, I'll be up there for a match.
Well, I know someone who was there Saturday. Well, I know a couple of people, but Owen
was he there?
That's why he was unavailable Saturday night. So
we'll see if we can get Owen on the show later. I'll text him, see if we can get Owen on to talk a little bit about it. It was impressive. In fact, I don't know if you've seen the video of it, but the video has been making the rounds on social media. So the young lady that they brought out to sing the, gosh darn it, Lonzo, what's the name of the national anthem?
Star Spangled Banner.
There he
Stop
goes.
it. Stop it.
The young lady they brought out to sing the national anthem, about a muscle and a half went in, and the mic cut. And all 74,400 took over. And it was incredible. Like, I got goosebumps thinking about it. I
saw that happen at a softball game once.
Yeah.
It's a smaller crowd, but still, just everyone in the crowd just started singing it.
74,500 people took over to finish it. I mean, the people were in the zone, right? They were up all match. The drums and the screaming and the chants never stopped. It was a freaking soccer match, man. Like, it was a soccer match. The first takeaway I have from that is you don't have to like it, but soccer's here. Soccer's in the South. Between the run that Atlanta went on before they earned their first gold star and what we saw last night, soccer's here. You don't have to like it, but you do have to acknowledge it, right? I doubt the Panthers have stuck 74K in the BOA in the past couple of years. But Charlotte FC did it in the opener. Now, before the soccer fans lose their minds, I also want to point out, it was the very first game, right? It was a monumental time. It was a historic match. It is one that if you were in the building, you get to tell your grandkids, yeah, I was there for Charlotte FC's first match. It's a big deal. It's a real big deal. I don't expect that's good. I doubt they're putting 74-4 into the building for every home match the rest of the year, especially if the team's not good, which we'll find out. Like I said, they're 0-2. But remember, they were still rounding out a roster like 2 weeks before their opening match. This team is not gelled at all, or at least that's the optimistic view of it that I'm taking. This team is not gelled yet. Here's what I will tell you about everybody that was there. The one complaint I got was, my Lord, this is expensive, right? The souvenir scarves. Lonzo, I got all those scarves hanging up in my office, right? Soccer has the tradition of you have a scarf. It lets you wear your team colors, even if you're not. It's kind of cool when you hold them up over your heads after a goal and you got a full supporter section of scarves up in the air. They're like the collectible, right? They were going for like $50 at this game.
What do they normally, though?
35, 30. I mean, I guess maybe a little more at a match, but everything there was expensive. Like, not like, hey, it's a game, you pay a few extra bucks. Like, this is expensive even for a game, right? On top of that, as far as I know, though I could be wrong here, Charlotte FC is the only MLS team that operates their season tickets under the premise of PSLs, personal seat licenses, right? Which means that you have to purchase a license that then gives you the ability to purchase season tickets. It's basically a way that some owners have figured out to get a few more bucks out of those who would spend money to be at games, to be at matches. So they're operating under one, still had a good attendance. But what happens in a situation like that is, even if you are not a season ticket holder, right? And you want to go to a match and you're going to buy a secondhand ticket off of somebody, in that situation, the person selling the ticket has to add $500, $600, $700 to recoup the price of their tickets in order to make back the PSL on top of the cost of the season tickets. Which means that Charlotte FC tickets aren't going to be as cheap as they are in, say, Atlanta or Orlando, right? And both of those places got a really, really good soccer community. Atlanta had a great run to the MLS Cup, filled out Mercedes-Benz a couple of times. Not as good recently, but still packing a pretty good audience. Orlando City, same situation, have not won a cup. But there's a great, anywhere you get into more diverse cities, you end up with really, really good soccer communities, right? Because they grow. It's infectious. Because it's fun. Charlotte looked great on TV. Looked really good. I was very impressed. I was proud of Charlotte FC in their opening match. Can they maintain that? A, be good, and B, and this is the part that's going to upset some people, please don't run this organization like the administration runs the Panthers. Please don't do it, right? We got Rashad Beard on every Thursday at 1 o'clock from the Panther Nation podcast. And when we talk to Shad, you know, during the early part of last season when the Panthers went on that winning streak, Shad was bouncy. He was laughing. It was a good time. The last 2 weeks, I felt like a clinical therapist for Rashad, letting him vent his Carolina frustrations out on the air, right? Don't do that to Charlotte FC fans because they're brand new, right? They don't have that connection. Most of the people in Charlotte that are Charlotte FC fans either just got into soccer or had another team that they have placed on the back burner to become an initial season supporter of Charlotte FC. For instance, me, right? I'm an Orlando City guy. They were the first MLS club in Florida. Closest MLS club to me since they came into play before the ATL got one. I'm a City fan. Vamos Orlando. I'm still in. But they backburn a little bit because I want Charlotte FC to be good. I want to have an MLS team an hour and 40, what is it, an hour, 45, 2 hours to Charlotte? I want an MLS team that I can go, hey, this Saturday, I'm going to jump in the car and head 2 hours up to Charlotte for a match because they're good. Don't run this organization like the Panthers. Don't try to nickel and dime everybody out in order to make the most amount of money. Don't create a situation where the only people going to games are cheese and cracker fans. You know what I mean by cheese and cracker fan? They're not there because of the game. They're there because of the social environment. They're not there to watch football. They are there to see and be seen, and it just happens to be at a football game. Don't make Charlotte FC that. You had the best intro to the MLS that any team has had yet. Don't ruin it. Don't be like the Panthers and ruin it. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, speaking of local sports, ladies and gentlemen, your Furman Paladins eked out a game last night and are now on their way to the SoCon Championship this evening, 7 p.m., and you can hear that game live right here and exclusively on ESPN Upstate. We'll break down last night's win for the Dins and what they look like against the Mocs tonight. Coming up next on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. All right, let's see. You answered Steven already with the Batman versus Bruce Wayne. Yeah, I think you get some leeway with Brucey, baby, considering it's early in his Batmaning.
Yeah, but you see Steven's comment about muscles? Did Michael Keaton have muscles? I don't think so.
Bro, they showed him without a shirt on.
Yeah.
That dude was ripped.
Yeah, he is ripped.
Swole, but he was ripped.
He is ripped. Now, if you want to talk about no muscles, talk about George Clooney.
Trey says, you don't have to like it, but you better learn to love it. Woo, Ric Flair. Every time you say that, the rest of it pops into my head. Yeah, that's where I got it from. That's where I got it from. You don't have to like it.
Unlike other hosts, when Rob quotes wrestling, he knows he's quoting wrestling.
Yeah. And that's the bottom line. I'd say my favorite commercial going right now is This Is a Cold Call commercial.
Oh, yeah.
With Gordon Ramsay.
That guy needs to chill.
That guy needs to chill out. Like, such a great line. Let's see. Is Charlotte FC in this year's FIFA? I may want to pick up a copy. I actually don't know, Trey. I don't know if they are in. Let's see.
As South Carolina's most preferred orthopedic provider and official team doctors for the Gamecocks and Tigers, Prisma Health.
Wait, what? There's a movie called Sharkula.
I mean, it's the only logical step.
Is a shark cursed by Dracula? The movie poster it's interesting. It just popped up on my feed. I mean, when you see a vampire shark.
I don't know that they have released the teams that are on FIFA yet, Trey, but I'll keep my eye on it. Tayshawn, no, I did not get to play yesterday, unfortunately. Just had too much to do. I'll be on late tonight, though, for sure. The man cave is all but done. So yeah, I'll be on tonight. I had to tell you, Elden Ring frustrated me more than any other game has frustrated me in a very long time. A very long time.
At least you're not getting shamed by your own child. Oh yeah, I beat that.
Yeah, I was frustrated. And I looked it up, Tayshaun. It turns out, and I didn't know this. You remember how you jumped in with me and you were like, "Oh, they nerfed me a little bit." If you play with characters that are dramatically below your level, they nerf you, and I guess that's so you don't like just use higher ranking players to speed run the game. But yeah, that was rough.
All right, Keegan says there's also a Sharkenstein movie. That Sharkilla thing was out in the 80s. How in the world did I miss that? I don't know. It's popping up on my feed now, but still, and there were sequels.
Why wouldn't there be?
Well, yeah, because obviously the first one did so well.
I mean, they made like 5 Sharknadoes, bro. How many, like?
Yeah, that was campy on purpose. I mean, and there for a time, everyone, all the big stars or people who thought they were stars wanted to be on that so they could get killed by a shark. When Al Roker comes on there and starts kicking butt, it's disturbing.
Let's be honest. If they called us and asked us to be in Sharknado 6, we're both doing it.
Oh, yeah, right? For sure. Please don't. Please. What do you? No, we're not.
Oh, I'm moving you.
Yeah.
Okay, right there. That's our new spot.
No, because you moved it. That's got a short in it.
Oh.
And now the screen's gone. And I told Chris you would do something to do it.
Oh, it like went all the way off.
Yes, there's a short in it.
Well,
I was messing with it earlier.
I don't accept blame for there being a short in a monitor.
Yeah, well, I need to send an email, and they're not going to fix it right away. But you did. You keep putting the cords under the glass, and then I can't move stuff.
All right, I'll come up with a
Don't you like
way.
think about other people?
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. Thank you for joining us. Text line's open. The preferred home services text line, it's 71307. 71307 is the number to text us. Start your text with ESPN, and we shall read them on the air. You can also call into the show. Call into the show at 844-GSP ESPN. 844-477-3776 is the number. Furman last night, 71-68 winners over a very upstart Samford team, and a good Samford team, by the way. Samford came into that one. Samford in the first half led by 15 points and did not show any signs of slowing their roll at all. But Bob Ritchie's boys made some adjustments. In fact, one of the things that I really, really liked, Samford built that lead early. They know that Furman is a squad that likes to get to the rack, right? They want to drive. They want to penetrate. They want to get to the rack. They want to get some and ones. They want to get some actual scores followed by foul shots. And Samford opened up by playing a 2-3 zone, taking away the middle of the floor. If you want to beat us, you're going to beat us with mid-range jumpers. You're going to beat us with the 3. And Furman didn't really respond to that all that well at that point. They didn't really respond to that. They weren't knocking down threes. They were trying to force penetration instead of taking it where it was available. It did not look great. Samford took advantage, ran out to a very early lead in that one. And the boys could not get anything going at that point. And then halftime. Furman went on a little run late in the first half, but they opened it up in the second half, and it looked good. In fact, I think they had 2 10-0 runs at one point in that game. End up taking the lead. It gets very, very close down at the end. Furman fights all the way back. About 8 minutes left. They take the lead. They get down to the very end of the game. You got a couple of turnovers. You got a couple of traded possessions. Samford has one chance left with 2 seconds. A missed free throw. Up went Slauson, Jalen Slauson, to try to get the ball back. It went off his fingers, out of bounds. Samford got another opportunity, but wasted the inbound pass. Furman was able to get them to force up a nasty shot. It didn't go. There was a foul called against Samford. Furman would make its last free throw to go up 3, and then Samford just couldn't do anything when they brought the ball back in. So the Paladins win 71-68, your final in that one for Furman. 17 for Jalen Slauson, 17 for Mike Bothwell. But I think the unsung hero in that game was Conley Garrison. Garrison, 3 of 10 from the floor, just 2 of 9 from the three-pointer. However, Garrison hit both of those three-pointers kind of not back-to-back, but in a very short time of each other late in the first half, and that was what forced the Samford Bulldogs to come out of their 2-3 zone and start playing man. They got a little afraid of the 3-ball from the Dins, so they expanded the 2-3 out to the man, and once they expanded out into a man coverage, Furman was able to get back to what they wanted to do. Dribble, drive, penetrate, distribute, or hit the short-range jumpers, and they looked really good doing it. Really good. So 10 for Conley Garrison. You had 9 for Alex Hunter, and then 8 off the bench for Garrett Hine. The Dents end up with the dub in that one, and now they move on to take on Chattanooga tonight in the SoCon Tournament Finals. That one's going to be at 7 p.m., Dan Scott will have the call for you live on ESPN Upstate. Big match, big game. Chattanooga went up against Mercer, I believe, earlier in the day, and looked good, looked real good. Listen, this game is really close, and that's the bad news for Furman in that case is that they had to run starting 5 out. Sorry, it was Wofford they went up. Chattanooga beat Wofford 79-56 in a game that wasn't particularly close. However, kind of interesting in this one, Chattanooga kept their starting 5 out until very late in that game, right? A near 30-point lead at one point, and the Mocs were still running out their starters. They are 26-7, 14-4 in conference. Furman 22-11, 12-6 in conference. So a few games difference, not a lot. But Chattanooga did not rest. Chattanooga could have hit cruise control late in that game, and they decided not to. Now they go for another one tonight. Furman did not have the opportunity to hit cruise control, so they ended up having to go full speed ahead, start to finish. These are going to be 2 teams that are going to have to see who's got it late, right? We had last week a long discussion about it where we were talking about Furman playing good defense. Furman against Samford had an okay day. It wasn't great. Team stat-wise, defensively, they allowed Samford to shoot 50% from behind the arc. Samford shot 50%, 9 of 18 from behind the arc. They shot 55% from the floor, 22 of 40. Furman, 24 of 56. Good for just a tick under 43% from the floor, but they were 9 of 32 from deep. The shooting has to be better, and the defense has to be better. It's not an option. The shooting and the defense must be better tonight if Furman wants a chance to upset the number 1 seed Chattanooga Mocs. We'll talk more about that game later and obviously have a good breakdown of a good, bad, or ugly on tomorrow's show. Let's take a break. Come back, wrap up hour number 1. Don Staley's Gals lose to Kentucky last night, 64-62. Their win streak is broken as the Kentucky Wildcats win the SEC Tournament Championship. What does that say about their chances in the Big Dance? Tell you next on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Chapter rainstorms 156. And meteorologists show the wind chills for ESPN Upstate. Currently, it's 73.
ESPN Upstate.
I'm going to disappear for a screen for just a moment because I need to go see if I can move my screen in a way where I can see it better since Rob messed it up. That's better. Let's see if he comes right in and messes it up again.
Individuals, families, and businesses get right with the IRS. They're experts in the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, a powerful new program that can make resolving tax issues easier. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, Optima's award-winning team has helped thousands of people protect their paychecks, bank accounts, homes, and businesses by putting their tax problems to rest, resolving over $1 billion in tax debts for their clients. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-935-7144. 800-935-7144. 800-935-7144.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hey, it's Don with American Made Windows. Are you getting a tax refund? If so, do the smart thing and invest in beautiful, energy-efficient windows from American Made Windows. Right now, you can really stretch that refund with $50 off per window or 12 months same as cash for qualified purchasers and buyers. Visit amwupstate.com or call 334-6030 for details. That's 334-6030. And remember, the best windows are American made.
Heard you're buying a car. I bought my calculator.
Dad, I already used Capital One Auto Navigator. I found it online and got pre-qualified instantly. Instead of all that.
You know those things impact the credit score.
Didn't impact my credit score, Dad. Now I'm going to the dealership for a test drive and to make a purchase.
Sounds expensive.
No, it's just easy. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms and conditions apply. Find out more at CapitalOne.com/autonavigator.
Straight Talk Wireless now has the new iPhone 13 cinematic mode, which lets you focus.
Got to remember to watch the trailer for Keanu Reeves voicing Batman and the Super Pets.
I'm Batman. Oh my God, if he doesn't say, I know Kung Fu. By the way, jumping way to the top of the power rankings.
Yes, I agree. I like white grape, but because it tastes like what I would call grape pop.
Yeah.
What you would call grape soda.
Soda. All right, wrapping up hour number one. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about South Carolina's loss to Kentucky in the SEC Women's Championship Tournament. Tell you straight up, not the end of the world, ladies and gentlemen, because let's be real, you would, in a heartbeat, give up an SEC Tournament Championship for an NCAA National Championship, right? Like, duh. Well, the good news here is that there are a couple of takeaways. 2 lessons that we learned last night in that game against Kentucky that I think will transfer to success in the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. I'll tell you what those 2 lessons are and what I hope to see out of the Lady Gamecocks in just about a week when we start up that tournament next. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. And you're listening to the best damn sports radio station in the upstate. It's ESPN Upstate.
Clemson basketball wrapping up their regular season on Saturday, knocking off Virginia Tech 63-59, and they go into the ACC tournament as the 10 seed. They'll match up against the 15th seed NC State in a game that's going to be coming up tomorrow. South Carolina basketball, they fall short against Auburn on Saturday, losing by an 82-71 score. They are the 7th seed in the SEC tournament, and they are going to match up against Mississippi State.
Did they give a time frame about when we'll know about passes? Or
No, I would suspect it'll probably be the week of.
Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. With your ESPN Upstate Sports Center update, I'm Matt Pauley.
Have you heard Offsides with Mark Ryan?
If missing the tournament most years is good enough for you, Clemson and South Carolina, you have the right coaches. If not, you need different ones. Expect more, demand more. It really is that simple. Now, some said, and Tim Crispy said, Mark, that's overly simplistic. Every team, every fan base wants to win. To a degree, but what happens in a lot of places is when you're not winning, you're just having an indifferent fan base.
to a degree. So some fan bases don't want to win, apparently.
Do you think there's indifference among the fan base?
No. When you get up to that number where 60% aren't paying attention, don't know when you play, missed a game and didn't realize it, that's when you get in trouble.
The Upstate is talking about Offsides with Mark Ryan now 3 to 7 p.m. on ESPN Upstate. March is here, and so is the madness. It's March Madness. Get there with ESPN Upstate is your home for exclusive Westwood One coverage for the journey to the tourney. It's March Madness. 68 teams with hopes of becoming the national basketball champion. Plus, the women's Final Four. Hear it all. March Madness from Westwood One on ESPN Upstate. 87.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. Reporting.
And check this out.
For an official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being great. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is no problem.
Hour number 2 of the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is ESPN Upstate. What's up, Upstate South Carolina? How do you do? Great to be back with you. I am Rob Brown. Directly across from me on the other side of the glass, the alpha and the omega of ESPN Upstate, the content cash cow, hashtag dad kicks, Colonel Grudge. Lonzo is at the controls today. 71307 is the number for the Preferred Home Services text line, 71307. Start your text with ESPN, and we will read them on the air if we're legally allowed to do so. You can call into the show at 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776. If you want to come at us that way, you can do it. And the tweeter is open for you as well, at The Rob Brown Show, at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, and at ESPN Upstate. If you want to get at everybody here at the Upstate's best sports talk radio station. So South Carolina last night on the women's side of things ends up dropping the SEC Tournament Championship final. They lose to Kentucky. 64-62 is your final in that one. Aaliyah Boston did her best. 21 on 9 of 18 from the floor, 3 of 4 from the line. Also chipped in 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and a pair of blocks to go along with it. You ended up 15 out of Zia Cook, 5 of 16 from the floor, 3 of 7 from the arc, and 9 out of Destiny Henderson as well. So what went wrong? Because numbers-wise, right? Numbers-wise, it wasn't a was it the best game they had all year? It wasn't a terrible game. You know, you put up 62, you're going to win a lot of games. 29-2 now are the Lady Gamecocks. 15-1 in conference. So what went wrong? There were 2 things, I think, that went wrong last night for the Lady Gamecocks. The first one is that fatigue is real, okay? And I don't care how elite you are. Fatigue is real. And because of the fact that the Lady Gamecocks have not yet had to run through that long a stretch of that many competitive games, all 2 of them, by the time you got into the 4th quarter of that game against Kentucky, the fatigue was evident, right? The fatigue was evident. You could see it. That fatigue was real. But the thing that I really found the most interesting, the number one enemy of the play style of the Gamecocks is when they come across officials, hold your horses, let me finish. When they come across officials, Lonzo, that have the let the girls play mentality, right? We hear about that in basketball all the time. Hey, sometimes you just got to let them play. You just got to let them play. It's going to get physical. There's going to be some bumping up underneath the rack. Sometimes you just you got to let them get physical. That's bad for South Carolina, right? That's bad for South Carolina. South Carolina is a team that is predicated on penetration, getting the ball into Aaliyah Boston's hands, getting the ball to the inside, letting them create opportunities, and getting you a bunch of free throws. Now, they shot 7 more from the strip than the Wildcats did. However, they also only went 12 of 20, right? 60% from the free throw line. Kentucky shot 7 less and also made 2 less. They went 10 of 13, 76.9% from the stripe. Step 1, I suspect that Dawn's got the ladies on the free throw stripe working hard on getting that down today. And look, it's different. We all know, we hear it every year when we start seeing conference tournaments and March Madness being played inside of bigger arenas like the Bridgestone Arena. It is a bigger and different look than you were used to. Even when you're on the road in the SEC, most of the gyms you're going to play in are kind of set up structure-wise to where the depth perception isn't going to come into play. But then you go into Bridgestone, where instead of a row of students behind the backboard, there's just a meekly inclined ocean of fans going up behind, right? So it's a different look. And every coach is going to tell you, hey, aim for the back of the rim, right? You aim for the back of the rim. And that's what you should be focused on. And it is. But we are human beings. Even when you pinpoint on one little thing, you still see everything around that one little thing, yeah? Now, I don't know that the depth perception is what threw the girls off last night. Didn't bother Kentucky all that much, 10 to 13 from the stripe. But you can't go 12 of 20. 14 of 20 sends you to overtime. 15 of 20 wins you the game, right? But they also want to get to where they're shooting 25, 26, 27 free throws a game. Get the ball inside to Aaliyah Boston. Let the offense run through the best player in college basketball, right? Let the offense be predicated by what's happening on the inside instead of the outside. Go to the rack, get fouled, get you a bunch of and ones, get you a bunch of three the old-fashioned ways, make stuff happen inside the paint. And this is not saying, oh, this is what South Carolina needs to do. This is what the Lady Gamecocks normally do. That is normally the way they attack games. They run the ball through Aaliyah Boston. Then you've got Zaya Cook and Destiny Henderson outside to pitch in, right? That's the way it ordinarily runs. The problem that you bump into is when you come up against a set of officials that let the girls play, it actually hurts what South Carolina is able to do. It hurts what they want to do. If you're going to let the 4s and 5s bang and bash into each other underneath the glass and not call fouls, you've just taken away like a third of the opportunities that you would want out of Aaliyah Boston. I want her going physical to the rack, knocking down high percentage shots, drawing fouls, getting to the stripe, and knocking down free throws. And the problem is twofold because, I heard somebody say yesterday, well, you still got to keep going to her, right? You just got to keep going to her. And I get the premise. At the end of the day, the ball's got to be in the hands of your best basketball player. I agree. When you get to a point, however, that your best player is getting physically abused and you're not getting the calls, you have to change it up. You have to change it up. You have to do something different. And that's to some degree what happened, right? If I can't get the ball into the paint without Aaliyah Boston getting absolutely wrecked and she's not earning trips to the stripe, then I got to move her out of there. And I don't know if that means you send somebody else down there to be a diversion. I don't know if that means that you spread the offense out and you put her up on the free throw stripe instead and let her work from there in. That's up to Dawn Staley to come up with. But I'm watching this game. I watch what Kentucky did. And let me be very clear. This is not like a game plan that other teams are going to be able to emulate, right? It's not like you can go, okay, here's the plan. The plan is we're going to not get fouls called on Aaliyah Boston. That's not how it works. That's up to the officials. But if South Carolina in the tournament finds themselves in a game like they had against Kentucky this weekend, if they find themselves in a games where they draw an officiating crew that lets the girls play, that lets them get physical, that lets them attack, that isn't calling fouls underneath the rack, that isn't giving you third point opportunities on the and one situation, then your whole game plan has to change. And it's got to change mid-fly. And the worst part about it is that might happen once. It might happen twice. I doubt it happens 3 times in the March tournament, right? Which means that it's not like you're going to practice this style of offense all that often. You work it in, right? You'll run some sets where you got the best player on the floor moving from the block up to the free throw line, rotating the offense through her up there, maybe trying to open the floor up for your mid-range shooters to knock it down, force that defense to expand a little bit and create some more room in the paint. But that's not the game plan. That's not the style of basketball that South Carolina has been really good at this year. So if it happens in the March tournament where you step up and end up with a handful of refs with an officiating crew that says, hey, we're going to let them go. We're going to let it go. We're going to let them play underneath. Now you've got to go to a secondary offense that you have not had to utilize a lot this season, which is to your detriment. To your detriment. The good news is that South Carolina is still the number 1 overall seed. They're 29-2. They had enough cushion that they kind of lost by 10 more and still would have been the number 1 overall seed, which means they're playing close to home. I think it's Greensboro. I would hope that some of y'all are going to make the journey up, right? Put a little electricity in there just in case you draw that officiating crew or another one that lets it happen so that South Carolina doesn't have their go-to style of offense, which is movement around the perimeter, open the floor up, get it to Boston, let her go to the rack, and draw a foul in the process. If they got to change that up, they're going to need some energy around them to keep it hype if things get frustrating, as it did against Kentucky. But we'll see. They're still the odds-on favorite going into this tournament. But it is March Madness for a reason. Let's take a break. Come back here in just a minute from right now. I got a few more things I want to get into, including the baseball discussion, the college football potential rule changed, and DJ Uiagalelei. I don't want to build up anybody's hopes yet, but he looks real good. It is spring. He is practicing against the air, but he looks real good. Talk to you about that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show. Rob Alonzo, it's ESPN Upstate. Not the prettiest days today, but you know what I did today? I brought the motorcycle to work today, kids. I rode the rig in today because it had been too long. It's been like 2 weeks since I got to ride. I bought my motorcycle about 8 years ago, something like that. And days like today are what made me love it. Jumped on the interstate today, coming up 385 towards the exit, and man, did it feel great.
NFL? Putting your employee safety first. And Manny in Chattanooga, the local Granger team, knows him by name. We're here for you and all the ones who get it done with 24/7 customer support and access to product specialists to help you find what you need. Call clickgranger.com or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Mom, have you booked me for my braces yet? I'm starting middle school this year.
With everything happening this summer, I don't think we have the time or even the money.
Don't worry, Mom. MyAffordableBraces.com not only has braces starting at $9.95, but it's super easy. Only you have to use that Parker.
Never mind. I know what I need to do. Actually, no, I don't. Do you have a minute to show me how to access net storage from home? Okay. Because I'm going to have to, I got to run out of here for a meeting right after this, and I'm just going to do all our segments when I get back to the house. Because my meeting's on the far side of Greenville, and I don't want to go. So if I can get to them from the house, I can do it there.
I can do it.
Well, I just I got to edit them down and all that fun crap, and I'm not adding that on your plate. I know.
I got skills, yo.
I'm aware.
I can show you, yes, if it works.
Oh, cool.
There's no guarantee because they've switched to some stuff and it doesn't work for some people.
Cool.
Chris could set up your laptop where you can do it.
I don't have it with me.
So I could have helped you on your laptop for sure. Let's do one login.
Okay. I know I got that. Well, let me phrase that. I don't know that I've tried that since we switched over.
Take a second to show you where it is.
Every team is one conversation away from a trade that can make all the difference. The same is true for your business. That's why when you post a job for free, LinkedIn Jobs taps into a network of over 770 million professionals to find the right people for your role. LinkedIn Jobs helps you narrow down to only the most qualified candidates, which means you can start hiring the right people faster. Go to LinkedIn.com/sports to post your job for free. That's LinkedIn.com/sports. Terms and conditions apply.
Auto Tinnitus is hiring production technicians starting at $16.80.
You know you live in the middle of the country when you spent part of your Sunday digging a ditch for irrigation and cutting down vines that are hanging over the driveway. And yes, you could swing on the vines. They're pretty thick.
So the quarterback competition, if there is one at Clemson, as of right now, it's DJ Uiagalelei's job to lose, right? But everybody knows about the young man they call Cade, who's come in, and the number 28 recruit in the country, has been taking snaps for Clemson. Started last week. Spring practice ongoing. We're going to have some spring practice reports for you from both Clemson and South Carolina, pretty much every day moving forward. Anyway, Cade comes in, and it's thought that he will be giving a little bit of competition to DJ Uiagalelei to force the second-year starter to, get better. Well, it appears, at least on a surface level, it appears that maybe DJ saw that coming. because DJ Uiagalelei at practice, there's a few things that have stood out about him so far. Number one, dude has shed some LBs, man. Uiagalelei was playing last year. At the end of the season, his reported playing weight, Zoe, was about 253, 254. Now, granted, that was muscle, right? I mean, he did get the Bojangles NIL deal, I believe. Maybe not back a few extra Dr. Peppers.
I was going to say, and Dr. Pepper, unless you're drinking Diet Dr. Pepper, the regular, will put some pounds on.
Put some LBs on. Ask me how I know. But DJ was playing about 254. Showed up to camp this season at 240. Took off 15 pounds of weight between the bowl win and the start of spring practices. But the other thing that he has been doing in spring practice so far, there's been touch on the football, y'all. I told you all during the season last season, the biggest problem I had with DJ Uiagalelei wasn't the decision making. Spring, there's still a lot that's got to get worked on and worked out. But DJ not only took off about 15 pounds, but he's shown some finesse. He's shown some touch with the football, right? Last year, I theorized that I thought the legend of DJ Uiagalelei went to his head before the season started, right? I said that I think DJ was basically convinced, probably via outside sources, but, at the end of the day, what he thinks he's in control of for the most part. I think that he thought coming into last year, he's just going to show up and be TL16 Volume 2.0, right? He's just going to do what Trevor did.
See, that's the problem. That's what the fans expect too.
Oh, I agree.
They absolutely expect it. And what you're saying right now is really bothering some people because they want DJ out of there. There are certain portions of the fan base, could be all of it, I don't know, that believe that if you weren't good enough the first year, you're not going to improve. They don't believe in improvement. They believe in the next guy.
Right.
The next hyped guy. And, some people get better at what they do, over a period of time. And
it took me 14 years, but I won an award.
There you go. And Dabo is not going to set him down more than likely.
No, he's your starter right now.
Yeah.
He is absolutely your starter right now. Kate Klubnik is going to be a guy, right? He's going to get his chance. But it's DJ's job to lose. I don't think that's surprising anybody, right? So DJ shows up. He's svelte, back down to 240. Took off about, a little over a dozen LBs from the end of the season. Packed on a little more muscle. Putting some finesse, putting some touch on the football, which, again, I think was his biggest problem last year. Now we're going to see if that translates to anything. I think DJ came into last year. I've said this before. This is nothing new. I think he came into last year with the mentality that being Trevor Lawrence is just what I'm going to do. I'm just going to roll out there and kill him. It's not how it works, right? The long stretch of really successful quarterbacks at Clemson led him to believe, alongside some help from some outside sources. And by the way, speaking of the fans, right? Everybody after TL's final season was looking and going, DJ's the guy, right? We're fine at quarterback. DJ's going to kill it at quarterback. Pops is out there building the Uiagalelei brand on DJ's shoulders. There was a whole lot that convinced DJ Uiagalelei, I think. And again, by the way, this is not a shot If you've listened to me give this theory before, you know I don't put this on DJ Uiagalelei at all. We interviewed DJ on this show during the ACC preseason media kickoff up in Charlotte. We had DJ on the show, and DJ was phenomenal, right? Love talking to that kid. Gave us some great stuff. But I think that outside influences, pops, fans, coaches, convinced him, you just got to go out there and be you and you're going to be just fine. And that's not how it works, man. That's not how it works. You got to put in work. It's hard work. I am working under the optimistic viewpoint, Lonzo, that the struggle last year for DJ was a swift kick in the pants.
Let's talk about that struggle, shall we? How many games did they lose?
More than they would have liked to.
Would they lose like 2, I think? Wow. Man, he was horrible.
Look, he threw 9 touchdowns. That's not great, right? Forget the wins and losses. He had 9 TDs. That's not good. For what? Let me phrase that. For what Clemson is used to, that's not good. That's going to hurt you a little bit. Clemson expects better. Dabo expects better. I'm sure DJ expected better. But like I said, there is a difference. There is a difference between expectation and execution. The expectation was 15, 16 touchdowns, 1.3 a game or so. Maybe a 1 loss, preferably an undefeated season, just to be Trevor. It didn't happen. He personally threw 9 touchdowns. That team won the games they won last year because that team had a really good defense, right? We've talked about that all year long. They won on defense. DJ knows that. I have said many things about DJ. The one thing I had not and will not say is DJ's not smart. Kid's got a good head on his shoulders, right? I think it was a little overinflated last year. But I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. That just took a season-long reality check, yeah? Just took a season-long reality check. That he has to now look at and go, okay, why wasn't I Trevor 2.0? Why wasn't I Deshaun Watson, Kelly Bryant? Why wasn't I one of those guys? I was supposed to be next. Why wasn't I? And you can't blame it on the brand, right? Can't blame that on Big Dave. Can't blame that on the brand. Can't blame that on anything other than I lacked execution on the field at certain points. That's it. That's it. And now that he's seen that, now that he's lived that, now that he's been in that spot, I think it was a wake-up call. And again, we are what? 3 days into spring practice now? 3 days into spring practice. Let's not sit here and say that all of a sudden DJ's a machine, but he clearly put in the work during the offseason, losing 15 pounds, showing up in better shape. He's putting touch and finesse on the football as opposed to just trying to get smoke to come off the back of it every time he throws it. He's clearly done the work to start working on some of the things that were issues for him on the field last year. I think last season, Lonzo, was a kick in the rear for DJ Uiagalelei. And now that he's got Cade Klubnik breathing down his neck, threatening to take that job from him, now he's got somebody that's going to force him to be better.
Or maybe, just maybe, the coaching changes are having a better effect on him. Maybe the old coach was holding him back. Could be. Possibly be. Maybe the newer coach understands how to get the most out of him. Or it could be that it's your second year in the system. It's the same offense, even though you have different, personnel.
Sure.
You still got, it's guys that were already there.
Yeah, look.
you start working somewhere. The first couple weeks, you struggle a little bit. You're trying to get the lay of the land. Then eventually you get good at what you're doing just out of repetition and being there a while. And he's had an entire off season, and I think he's going to be good. And I just looked at the record because I think they lost twice. And they scored some points for him supposedly being inept. They scored some points.
Sure.
There's some, 40-point games.
But,
it wasn't the defense scoring all those points.
No, but that was a lot of Will Shipley.
Good.
Right?
Good.
Spread the ball around. I agree with everything you're saying.
I mean, Travis Etienne he did quite a bit when he was there.
Sure.
So having a running game is not unusual for Clemson.
No, not at all. Obviously not. The point is, you'd like it to be better. How much more effective is Will Shipley if they can't throw an extra linebacker in the box because they know anything over 15 yards and DJ can't hit it? And you're right on the other point. There were a lot of folks that were criticizing the play calling of Tony Elliott down the stretch, right? I know of at least a handful of Clemson fans that when Tony Elliott took the Virginia job and split Dodge, I know a number of Clemson fans that went, good, right? The play calling got stale. When the scheme didn't work, he just kept going back to it. That's not going to work, right? There's a lot of that. And if there's a lot of that, you got to do something. They moved on from the OC spot. A lot of Clemson fans happy about that. Will a new scheme, or at least bits and pieces of one, be enough alongside the work that DJ Uiagalelei has clearly done in the offseason? Will that be enough to push them to another level? We'll find out. We'll have more spring reports for you as we move into and towards the regular season. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, let's take a look at some of the concessions that were made this weekend by the Major League Baseball's Player Association and see if we think that'll help advance getting a contract done. In the next 2 or 3 days, baseball will cancel another week or two of regular season games. We have already pushed opening day back at least a week in a couple of days. Could we see more? That more coming up on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
Hello, Asheville. They are in Asheville, right? SoCon, yeah. Asheville. I thought it was Asheville. Hello, on-site. It's cool. All right, so obviously you hear me and I hear you, so we're good. All right. I did not. All right, it's kind of low, but I hear you. That's better. Yeah. All right, cool.
Sting, man, what a lunatic. 57.
Yeah, it's just no.
Golly.
It's like, please don't do that. Tell me you're not. Oh man, he did that. Especially after the injury in WWE. It's like I know it's been a while, but still, you know, you only get one neck. I am seeing some people have the same complaint that I did about the CM Punk MJF match. Too much blood. This is way too much blood to the point where I thought he was getting weak. And you could see when he cut himself.
Yeah.
And he hit it too deep. He
Yeah.
went like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, why did he hit it so hard? There was already a scab there. He's already bleeding. I mean, he hit it way too hard. There's a reason why you had to keep checking on him.
I mean that, but I also wonder, like, Punk is a great in-ring storyteller, like wrestling and things.
You can't make yourself bleed more.
No. I'm saying, like,
Okay.
I mean, as often as they mention, like, oh, use that much, like, how much of that was CM Punk genuinely getting weak versus him playing it up is like, hey, I've lost all the blood. I obviously would be weak because he did the same with the knee, right? Like, once he banged the knee into the thing, he never stopped favoring that knee the rest of the way.
I get all that, and I agree, but that was a lot of blood.
It was.
I'm just saying that's a lot of blood. I mean, to the point where every time he moved, it was just spraying out. It was not, I mean, you see droplets every time the camera would come in, going on the canvas. It's like, that's not stopping.
Lonzo, what's like the worst oops, not like big deal mistake, but like embarrassing mistake you've ever made on air? Do you know?
Some would say every time I turn the microphone on. There's one particular incident that me and the news person had trouble getting the news on, and it was a botch of errors, one after the other, till we both got called into the program director's office and told if it happened again, we would be let go. So it wasn't my fault, but still, I got blamed for it. So
I'm not even talking about the kind of mistake that genuinely gets you into the principal's office. I'm talking about, like, you do it and you go, oh, well, that was dumb. Nobody cares, but it's just a dumb mistake.
Yeah, I kind of do that all the time, and I usually cover it until the person across from me points it out.
The great thing about those mistakes is that 99% of the time, you can cover it up, right? Like, you make a joke out of it.
Well, I've dealt with talent, and I'm not going to do the air quotes, who have stopped in the middle of something going, what is that? Well, that's just dumb. Or I've been told to my face, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard on the air. And that's very hurtful. I've had several hosts do that to me. Sometimes you just say dumb things.
Yeah.
And in your brain, it sounds right. But the fact that someone just takes a knife and just splits you down the middle,
it happens to the best of us, right? It's happened to all of us.
I will say, as a team, you try to cover for each other, even when you do something stupid. But yes, we all do that for sure.
So here's why I'm asking. The Auburn Tigers have won the regular season Southeastern Conference basketball title, right? Now they get set up to defend it in the SEC tournament, where they'll be the 1 seed, obviously. And it took me back to a mistake that was made by a TV news station. And I'm telling you this because if Auburn wins the SEC tournament, it's going to happen again somewhere. Auburn won, and I can't even remember what tournament it was. It may have been the baseball. I don't remember, though. Anyway, Auburn won a tournament, and there was a news station. I'm not even going to tell you what station it was. It was out of Mobile, Alabama. But I don't want there to be like an influx of tweets about it. Keegan reminded me of it earlier today. That last year, Lonzo made one of those mistakes. When Auburn won an SEC tournament, and they had a typo in the on-screen graphic. See, the C and the X are right next to each other on the keyboard. And if you have not trained your computer, typing SEC can often autocorrect.
Or if you're used to typing the X
Sure.
and not the C, I'm just I want to think that this wasn't an accident.
It may not have been, but the station out of, I believe it was Mobile, Alabama, congratulated the Auburn Tigers on winning the sex tournament. And I only know that because when Auburn won the SEC regular season title, up on my Twitter feed, Lonzo, popped a tweet that said, as a lifelong Kentucky fan, I think it's time to admit that Auburn owns SEC basketball. I'm shaking and throwing up about how they're the sex champions and we aren't. I wish Bruce Pearl was our coach. I just need you all to be prepared, because if Auburn or anybody else somebody wins the SEC basketball tournament, there are going to be tweets congratulating them on winning the sex tournament. And there is going to be a news editor somewhere who accidentally throws up on the news screen, congratulations, Auburn Tigers, 2022 sex tournament champions. And if that can be on a t-shirt somewhere, it will be the first Auburn t-shirt I ever buy.
I do recall being a little nervous about that being discussed on the air.
Oh, yeah.
Because, there are many different ways people can go. And I do recall the text line going many ways that could not be talked about.
I'm just saying, ladies and gentlemen, I'd buy that t-shirt. Let's take a break. When we come back, Owen Watterson, our own, was at the Charlotte FC debut match on Saturday evening, and we're going to ask him a little bit about what the experience was like next on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
You concerned about those rain clouds?
The longer the days goes on, the yes, sir, I am. Keegan, phenomenal stuff. Way to provide content, buddy. Much appreciated. Content cash cow. Be right back.
Whoever said the more the merrier, she wasn't in charge of hiring new employees, because the more unqualified candidates you have for a job, the more difficult your hiring can be. And that can make the process, well, not so merry for you. Thankfully, there's ZipRecruiter, which you can try right now for free at ZipRecruiter.com/hire. ZipRecruiter's powerful technology finds the right candidates for your job. But unlike other sites, ZipRecruiter goes deeper. ZipRecruiter matches people with people, and you can personally invite your top choices to apply, because the perfect hire is more than a list of qualifications. It's an individual. ZipRecruiter makes hiring the right person happen, and that'll keep you and everyone else very merry. 4 out of 5 employees who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try ZipRecruiter for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/hire. That's right, free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/hire. ZipRecruiter.com/hire. If you're suffering every day from joint pain, stop and listen. You can get real lasting relief now with natural biologic treatments at QC Kinetics. Hey, it's Charlie James, and QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative solutions that can restore and repair damaged tissue with no surgery and no drugs. This is the relief you've been hoping for your aching knees, hips, shoulder, lower back. The unique protocols at QC Kinetics were created by a physician with years of study in regenerative restorative medicine. They're treating patients every day in hundreds of clinics nationwide with remarkable success, life-changing results with zero downtime. It's the new, better, smarter, non-surgical, non-invasive way to deal with joint pain. And yes, they're right here, ready to help you right now. Call them for a free consultation. Make this spring and summer your best ever. No joint pain holding you back. QC Kinetics in Greenville and Asheville.
Drake lost $275,000 on a UFC bet.
I suspect Drake's not hurting for cash this morning.
what says Kobe Covington let him hear about it, so I'm guessing he bet Kobe would lose, which he did not.
As betting lines go, getting Masvidal at plus 325 was the way to go.
It was pretty much a domination, though.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where it was a struggle to stay awake.
Yeah.
I mean,
I haven't watched
it was basically Sunday.
Yeah.
So no, it was Sunday. So by the time the fight came on, it was right around midnight, if I recall. But it was 5 rounds, so I went into it.
I haven't watched it yet, but everybody I've talked to said it wasn't really anything to get excited about.
Unless, of course, you had money on it and you won. Then you're probably all right with it. So I was still convinced it was a work, even while there was security in the ring with them and everything before it starts. And I'm like, I told my wife and daughter, they're going to hug at the end.
Did they?
And then Joe Rogan says, almost right after I said it, oh, they're going to hug at the end. And I forget, I think it was Bisping said, no, they won't. Or maybe it was John Anik, whichever way. Rogan bet one of them $20 they would. No, they did not.
Bet him $20.
Yeah, it's like $20 to Rogan. Yeah, that's funny. But unless that $20 is code for something more. I mean, I don't know. I think Masvidal's done.
All right, the Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's ESPN Upstate. To the phone lines we go because our buddy Owen Watterson joining us here on the show. Owen was in Charlotte on Saturday night when Charlotte FC played their first home match in MLS. Over 74,400 in attendance, setting an MLS regular season record in their very first match. Owen, what's up, fella? Has the sleep caught up yet, pal?
No, it hasn't at all, but it was well worth it. Obviously a win would have been a little bit better, but I mean, it was electric. I mean, I've seen a bunch of people discussing it on Twitter, whether the environment was just as good, if not better, than the 2015 NFC title game, which with the Super Bowl on the line, it's hard to say that it was quite up to par there, but the stadium was sure as packed as it was that night against the Cardinals when the Panthers beat the brakes off of them to go and eventually lose to the Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning. But I hate that it ended with Alvarez on a world-class goal with his left foot bending it all the way around, top right corner. I mean, right after Christian Fuchs gets pulled down in the box, in my opinion, should have been a penalty, but that's the way the game goes. If this is what signs are to come in Charlotte for this soccer team, you couldn't be happier.
I was I watched that match at the house, and when they started showing the scenes of the audience around, dude, if it wasn't for the drums, if it wasn't for the chants, and if it wasn't for the crown logo instead of a Panther head, if you just gave somebody a glimpse from up top, you'd have thought that was a Panther Monday Night Football game. It looked like it was such a ruckus.
Yeah, it was. And, big shout out to the supporters that were right behind the goal. There were no tifos going on, but they had smoke canisters going off everywhere. The crowd was really going to be in the whole game, even after the goal. And that was the thing that I was so worried about. And I told people after the game, despite how big the crowd is, I feel like a lot of the draw was the fact that it is the first game. They've been trying to sell enough tickets to break this record for months and months and months now. I felt like they had to win in order to bring a lot of these fans back, to bring these kind of crowds back. I'm sure attendance is going to dip just a little bit, but it's the first season in MLS. I feel like Atlanta United just set the bar super high for every new team, and it's going to be hard for anybody to live up to that level. But the excitement is obviously there, and these fans are not going anywhere. I believe there was 3,000 plus that were doing the supporters march down the street an hour before the game with the canisters and drums even going then, walking towards the Mint Street. So these fans have been waiting over 2 years for this team to come, and I really expect it to continue. Maybe not to 75,000 level every home game, but it's going to be packed.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, I don't know if you got the opportunity to talk to the fans around you. I mean, look, you mentioned it. That goal was unreal. I mean, I think ESPN Data and Analytics said that shot from that spot with the defenders in those spots had like a 0.3% chance of making it, and somehow it went in. Tough loss. Would have loved to draw. Obviously, would have loved to dub. But after it was over, did it seem like the supporters around you were making plans to come back for more, or was that just a 74,000 people wanted to say they were at the first one and that's enough?
Well, the thing that surprised me the most, I was worried about that very thing, Rob, that the energy was going to be bad walking out of the stadium if they lost. But as soon as I walked out into the concourse and I was walking down from the upper level, I mean, there was chants of Charlotte FC the whole time. The energy wasn't gone. People were still excited about the turnout. And let's be honest, they put out a pretty good result on the field, even when they played DC United and lost 3-0 in the first game. They controlled most of that first half. They've been positive. They just got to net their first goal, and it'll come.
Owen Watterson joining us here on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate. He was in Bank of America Stadium on Saturday night as Charlotte FC made their debut in the MLS, setting an MLS attendance record. I watched Orlando do something similar, and since then, despite not having won an MLS Cup yet, Orlando's got a very good, interesting but good soccer culture. Atlanta, the same way. They did go win an MLS Cup, and they've done well. In fact, I think that if they haven't, they have threatened passing the Falcons for average attendance over the course of a season. You know, with the way the Panthers are right now, struggling to kind of find themselves a little bit. I know Charlotte FC doesn't look great out front going 0-2, but it is debut season, and it's hard to do. After having been there, experienced it, talked to supporters, covered this team, etc., what do you think a Charlotte FC game looks like at home and let's say 3 months from now?
I would like to think it'd be well more than half of, at the very least, the amount of people that were there. I don't expect the upper deck to fill up every single home game as it was last night, but for sure the lower bowl is going to be packed almost every single game. They're selling tickets for, $10, $12, $15 in the upper deck. They're trying to get people there. And like you said, with the way the Panthers have been performing over the past couple of years, David Tepper has put almost all of his marbles into this team and trying to make sure they'll get turnouts like this every single game. And I'll say this too, don't underestimate a Charlotte sports fan's disdain for the city of Atlanta. If anything, they'll do it just to spite the city of Atlanta and Atlanta United. Whenever they have that first home match against Atlanta United, I would not be surprised to see it packed once again.
Oh, and 10-second answer, and I know it takes longer, but 10-second answer. Do you trust David Tepper to run a successful MLS club?
No.
Good.
No, I don't. I didn't even need the 10 seconds, Rob. I don't trust him to run an NFL franchise right now. Listen, I know he's excited about this, but no, I don't. In layman's terms, Rob, no.
Good enough for me. We'll have deeper discussion on that. Owen, appreciate it, big fella. We'll talk to you soon, pal.
See you, man.
There you go. That's Owen Watterson of, ESPN Upstate. He was at the match Saturday night. Appreciate him talking about it. Texture says, why is it so expensive? Charlotte FC is awful proud of a terrible team. I'll address that later on in the show. When we come back, where does the MLB stand? Working towards a contract negotiation so we can play baseball. Give you the most recent updates next on the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
I was thinking about it. I will show you how to do that. But you don't necessarily have to do that because you can just download the podcast and trim that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But I'll still show
Well,
you.
that's what I'm saying. How do I? That's where I need. That's what I need to get.
Yeah, but you could get. Where are you getting? Are you getting it from the files that I save?
Podcast file.
So you're saying that, but you could also just download the actual podcast.
Right out of Omni. That's right. Okay. All right. Good call.
But I still want to show you anyway in case you need to.
Today's Wordle, I've got 60 in a row now, and I'm up against it right now. I might be in trouble.
Well, you shouldn't do it while you're working. You can't concentrate as well.
That's a winning percentage of 784. It's fantastic. That Boise State. Best coaches in all of college football win at about an 80% clip. If Brian Harsin happens to beat Alabama the final game of the year, are we even having this discussion? A mass exodus isn't necessarily a sign that his message isn't working. It could be a sign that it is. Out with the snowflake, giving him his guy.
Offsides with Mark Ryan, now 3 to 7 p.m. on ESPN Upstate. ESPN Upstate, taking you to the biggest events in sports. What's next? One's coverage of March Madness. The biggest names play on ESPN Upstate on 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. Game on. Morning.
And check this out.
For an official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represent Green Green.
Real unfiltered sports talk. Featured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on ESPN.
The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate, the third, the final, the best. The money hour of the show goes now. What's happening? Upstate South Carolina. Hello, America. Hello, world. Great to be with you once again on a Monday. Got to get down on Monday. I am Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, directly across from me on the other side of the glass, both metaphorically and literally today, ladies and gentlemen. 844-GSP-ESPN's the number to call in and be on the air. Text us on the Preferred Home Services text line at 71307, 71307. Thanks again to Owen Watterson for taking a few minutes out of his day to chat with us. Owen and I are actually going to do a little bit of a podcast about his experience and what we think the future is for Charlotte FC. Like any other organization, and this I don't know why this seems to be such a difficult concept for a lot of team owners and general managers. But if you put together a good team, you make more money.
What? Wait. Go ahead, count it. I'll count it as one. So what you're saying is, if you put together a team that's going to try to win, you make more money?
If you put together a team that does win.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now,
so people don't like effort. They want to see victories.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Can I tell you, so earlier, and the reason I wanted to get Owen on, just aside because I was curious, but there was a text that came in about this to our sister station, to the Vince Coakley radio broadcast over on WORD, because we share a text line, so we can read all their text. And ordinarily, I just go, when they get into sports. But this is why I wanted to bring it up. Texter said, good morning. Over 71,000 people. Okay, it was over 74,000 people. But, let's not get mired down.
All right, so technically, over 70,000 is still right.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, there were over 9 people at the Charlotte FC match on Saturday.
Still correct.
Details are important.
I'm not being defensive because of it. It's just
You are a little bit, but
just
that's okay. That's your baby.
That's
your baby.
All right.
Lonzo has won multiple trophies here, but his biggest trophy is over there. They got the cup over there. They got the Stanley Cup of
It
radio
is
over there.
literally
It's a
cup.
giant freaking cup.
It is, yes.
Yeah, he's got the cup over there. Anyway, said over 71,000 people cheered for over 90 minutes and they never scored. I'm sorry. They call this a sport ? Let's get together and root for paint to dry. End quote.
And no, I did not text that into the text line.
That philosophy just, and I'm going to segue this into the baseball stuff here in just a minute.
At least it wasn't a tie.
Hate a tie, huh? Hate a tie. That philosophy aggravates me because the premise is the only thing that matters are scores, right? Well,
play to win the game. Don't short out my screen.
I forgot about that. No, we celebrate the goals. We celebrate touchdowns. We celebrate home runs, but that's not the only thing that makes up the game. I don't know why it is with this one particular sport. It's just like, no, nothing matters unless the ball gets in the net, right? Charlotte FC actually played a pretty good game Saturday. A surprisingly good game. Remember, this is a team that 2 weeks before the regular season started was still finishing up their roster. This was a team whose manager, whose head coach said about his own team what, Lonzo?
I don't remember
He said, we're screwed.
Screwed, yeah.
He said, we're screwed. And they played out. They showed out. They had a good game. It was 1-0. It was an L. And that L, ladies and gentlemen, that L they took, that goal they allowed, was one of the best goals I've seen in MLS this season, and I watch a pretty decent amount. One of the best goals I've seen scored this season. The game is beautiful in that the game is beautiful. And if it leads to a bunch of goals, huzzah. But the game is good. But here's ultimately what I take from that. 71,000 people cheered for over 90 minutes and they never scored. I'm sorry, they call this a sport? Yes. And not only is it a sport, but it's a sport that put more butts in seats this past Saturday night than the Panthers did all regular season long. And probably more than they will next regular season too. As I've said a number of times, and as earlier in the Facebook chat, Trey pointed out, the old Ric Flair quote, you don't have to like it, but you do have to respect it. 74,500 people showed out. Now, like I asked Owen, does that mean that they're going to pack out 75K next weekend for the next home match? No, probably not. But if I told you they were going to put 50K in the seats, that's still pretty impressive, right? That's still pretty impressive. In the South, that's pretty impressive. And considering the attendance numbers for the Panthers last year, that's really good.
I hate to be a naysayer and doubter when normally I am just a ball of joy.
But
I'd be shocked if they get 50 next week. And, you know, for their sake, it's a new team, and whether I'm a big soccer fan or not, I want the team to do well. So hopefully they will be able to get those kind of numbers. But, you know, first game of the year, it's a novelty. You're trying to get, as Owen even pointed out, they were trying to sell out. Are they making those kind of efforts every week? We'll see.
So here's the thing, and we talked a little bit about this, right? They made and it makes sense. They made a hard push. I mean, a hard push to sell that game out, right? They were advertising tickets everywhere. Made a hard push to sell that ticket out. And they did. David Tepper has made this a passion project of his. I'll give him credit for that, right? He decided to take the risk. He decided to invest in this project, in the prospect of this team being successful. And he's poured everything into it. I'll give him credit for it. The setup for Charlotte FC is great. There's a Charlotte FC billboard right down here on what's this road over here? Haywood?
You're pointing at Woodruff.
Woodruff? That's what I said.
Yeah, okay.
On Woodruff?
Haywood's that way.
I've only been here 2 years, Lonzo. I don't know the roads.
It's all right. And it's pretty bad when I'm the one correcting the directions. So
There's a Charlotte FC billboard right over here on Woodruff. They tried, right? We've had the discussion 100 times about, the Carolina Panthers, are they really South Carolina's NFL team? Do they really count? They tried. In fact, right over here over my shoulder on the Facebook stream, for those of you watching, we've got a Carolina Panthers banner that hangs in the studio that says 2 states, 1 team, and the logo is the Panthers standing on top of a silhouette of both North Carolina and South Carolina, and they did not separate the 2 states with a border, right? They just made it one big blob.
It's pretty cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
It is cool. I'm not a Panthers fan, but I'm a fan of good marketing. And that's a great effort, right? I don't know if it caught. I don't know if it worked. I know Mark's talked about this on his show a bunch. I don't know if it worked.
I will tell you, until Mark started working here, I didn't notice. And I've been here for now almost 25 years.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't notice till he pointed it out.
So I think Charlotte has done an okay job.
So I think at the beginning of the marketing, they probably made a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
But I think somewhere along the way, they just
Talking about for Charlotte or for Carolina?
for Carolina,
Yeah.
the team. I think after a certain time, they just stopped pointing that out as much.
You might not be wrong. Charlotte's interesting, right? Because I still don't think it was a great idea to go with Charlotte FC. I think they should have gone Carolina's United, right? It's one of the few times that I think an American team using a European traditional style of way of naming a team, like Real Salt Lake, doesn't make any sense to me. Philadelphia Union doesn't make any sense to me. Unions are when you had multiple clubs playing in one place. That makes sense. Same with United. Those things make sense. Football club makes sense to some degree. Carolina's United would have been a great name for that club because it would have been exactly that, uniting the Carolinas with one team. But they went Charlotte. I don't have an issue with using the Panthers colors. I think that's the right play, right? You're playing into that base a little bit, and I get it. They put a lot of work into showing out and having that place packed out in game 1. The question is, did they continue that commitment? Now, to the second part of the segment I wanted to get to, that attitude of people cheer for over 90 minutes and they never scored. Is that really a sport? And then he said, let's get together and watch paint dry, to which a texter responded, the phrase watching paint dry is a great segue into baseball. So baseball ended up in a spot this weekend where they actually met over the weekend, which I guess you deserve some level of commendation because you could have taken the weekend off. But both sides know they're losing money now. Both sides know they're in a hole of their own digging, and they got to figure it out, yeah? So they get together and they come up with some solutions. They have first and foremost elected to enlarge, not first and foremost, but one of the big things they came to an agreement on was to enlarge the bases, right? The centers of the bases will still be 90 feet from each other, but the bases will be, I don't know how much bigger, 1 inch, 2 inches, who knows, on each side. And they did this because of the number of injuries over the past couple of years where player running to first has stepped on the ankle of the first baseman and one or both of them gets hurt, right? Now, this gives a little bit of an advantage to the offense, right? It's only a couple of inches, but if you shorten the base path up between first and second, you shorten it up by 4 inches total? Yeah? How many guys have been thrown out stealing where the glove comes down just between fingertip and glove, right? If those 2 spots are 4 inches closer to each other, offense has an advantage. Base Steelers have an advantage.
It wouldn't seem like a lot, but it absolutely is. That's kind of a big deal.
4 inches is huge. He said, out of context, going to be quoted by his friends later. That's a big deal. I can't correlate that to what a 40 time looks like. But I can tell you that there have been a lot of pickoffs that the defensive player won by an inch. And now you're changing it to 2? That's huge, yeah? That's enormous. The second thing is, no robo-umps this year. No automated strike zones. That's 100% because of the pitchers.
I'm disappointed I can't play the Terminator music right now, but at the same time, I'm also excited that I can't play the Terminator music right now.
They have still not come together on the playoffs. They have still not come together on expanding the playoffs or shrinking the playoffs or moving the playoffs or anything else. But they at least, I guess, kind of, sort of made a little bit, tiny amount of progress, which is good.
It's progress. Not progress is meeting for 15 minutes. This is progress.
Yeah. Now, the one that got my goat a little bit, the one that I didn't like, the players told the owners that they would allow a pitch clock to go into play. I don't have a problem with that one. But they also said that they would allow the shift to be banned. I don't get it. Tactically speaking, the shift makes sense. If I know a guy hits 80% of the time to the third base bag, I'm moving all my guys over there. If he pushes it to first, I played the odds I lost. It happens. All right? Doesn't make sense. I hate the shift being banned. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't know why you would. It's just defense, right? Except for, I do. The reason that they want to ban the shift is very simple. It is because they want to try to attempt to have more non-home run hits in play. They want to attempt to have more guys be able to get on base without hitting dingers, right? Because fans have gotten to the point where all they care about is runs scored. This is the same attitude of that texter a minute ago. And when your attitude is only runs matter, nothing else does, it waters down baseball, right? Like, why not move the pitcher's mound back 2 full feet? Let's give batters more time to see the ball. Why not shorten the base pass up, move the bases in so it's less running for guys, faster to home plate, right? Like,
hey, I think Twitter's listening to you right now. Everything you bring up, suddenly it's popping up on it's just weird.
They heard the conversation.
MLB fans are not very happy with the potential ban of the defensive shift, right as you said that.
So get it. Could you imagine basketball going, we want more 3-pointers, so you're only allowed to play a 2-3 zone now, right? No more man-to-man in basketball. Only 2-3 zone because it opens up shooters in the wings.
Well, the NFL kind of does that to get more scoring. So
right. And I complain about it then too. I, as a guy who loves and played defense, I despise it when a game starts tinkering with good rules in order to give the offense yet another advantage. I've had a problem with it in the NFL for years. I got a problem with it in the NBA, and I got a problem with it in baseball because this is glaringly nothing more than an effort to get more runners on base and more runs across the dish. I don't need it. I don't care if games end 1-0 if they're great baseball games, right? If the only reason you watch a game is for scores, I don't know what to tell you. We watch sports differently. All right, let me do this. Kenny, I see you on the line. You hold it because what you want to bring up, I wanted to talk about anyway. So, Kenny, you hold the line. Straight out of this short break, I'm coming right to you, big dog. That's next on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
So someone forgot their key and couldn't get in and texted someone to come out and let them in. They accidentally closed the door and didn't have their key. And, but luckily I don't have to run downstairs because somebody else happened to come in and let them in. I'm not going to say who the people were who forgot their key, but yeah. So Rob rode his motorcycle today, and the clouds just keep moving in. And every once in a while, you see him look to his left, thinking, great, what's this going to look like in 40 minutes?
That Darby Allin suicide dive onto the dude wearing the trash can was insane. And that chair shot from Andrade was clearly no joke.
The dude in the trash can wants some of Darby, supposedly. And he should not be in the ring.
He got smoked. Like that, and to not be able to prepare for it, right? To be blind in that situation. Andrade popped him for it.
Yeah. Any of those trash can shots are, imagine that. Because you really have to trust in the guy that's kicking you or hitting you, that they're going to hit you in the right place. And you still are not going to know when it's coming until you feel the impact. And as we know, those trash cans are basically thick foil. So how much impact are they actually stopping? In your vast wrestling career, did you ever get hit by one of those trash cans?
No, I didn't get hit with anything. I just did bumps.
Wonder where they get those from.
Starting at $39.95, but it's super easy. They don't even have to use that goop that Parker had to use for his. Come on, Mom. I look more mature. Aren't you always saying it's time to grow up? Good point. What's that website again? MyAffordableBraces.com.
Would you take a chair shot for the show?
Would I?
Yeah. Would you? I don't know. I don't know if I would or not. I guess it depends on who's given the shot.
That's also true. Like, would I take a suicide dive from Brian Danielson? Yes. Would I take one from Darby? No. Darby's going to get hurt because he is going to hurt somebody being as aggressive as he is. Like, I get it, and it works for him. But the suicide, like, he genuinely launches himself into people. It's insane.
Keegan has volunteered to give the chair shot. You know, he's ever present and willing to help the show.
Oh, I know. I respect Keegan. You know, he's there for us. Insults us to keep us humble, willing to deliver chair shots. He's a P1, you know?
I'm trying to remember, you know, Keegan's exact height to, you know, because that has something to do with where the chair shot would be most comfortable.
You can listen to new episodes of Love Thy Neighbor every week.
60. That's 60 kids. Oh, but the word's covered. I'm not going to show it to you.
Way to push through, man. You persevered.
I got worried about this one. This one was
tough.
tough.
You dug down deep.
This one was tough.
You found it.
I'd like to thank Smaug for helping me with this one.
No contract.
The Allgreens is the word.
30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. Find your capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Okay, I only see part of it, I think.
Oh, it covered it up. Sorry.
I was like, that's not a word. Okay.
Yeah. I was like, I can't, because it was just vowels in a weird spot.
Granger.com or just stop by. Granger, the ones who get it done.
All right, so Carolina's got a quarterback conversation ongoing. We know that. We know the players from the draft: Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis. We know the vets: Kirk Cousins. Looks like Russell Wilson might be off the table, though that is not for sure. Cam Newton is out there. Sam Darnold staying on board. And enter a new name to the mix. According to NFL insiders, the Carolina Panthers are now looking at Mitchell Trubisky to come in and be the next starting quarterback. And then there's the one name that's been floating around by everybody, and that's what Kenny wants to talk about. He said Russell. I'm sorry. I thought it said Watson to the Panthers, but Kenny said Wilson to the Panthers. Don't hate the thought. Let's talk about it. Kenny, welcome to the show, big fella. Thanks for taking a minute.
Thank you. This is Kenny in Spartanburg. I've actually worked with Lonzo a few times with Mr. Ken Blankenship, of all things. But anyway, Russell, I was just wanting to know if you had any information on Russell Wilson, and I want to start the campaign to get Russell Wilson in the Carolinas.
Russell Wilson to the Carolinas, the only problem you are going to have with that is if Russell wants out and if Seattle is going to deal him, there's going to be 4 or 5 teams that are more postseason ready that are going to go in, which means the price that would have to be paid by Carolina would be a lot. And for a team that is already strapped with draft capital not being readily available, I don't know that I think you could probably come up with the money for Russell Wilson. I think the problem is, can you give Seattle enough that they pull the trigger on their end? And I don't know if the draft capital's there.
Okay. Well, that's what I was wanting to talk about. I think he'd be great. I think him and the players they got would be a great mix, and I think he could pull the Panthers to another level.
But yeah, I mean, I think anything's an upgrade over what we got out of Sam Darnold last year, right? Started the year really hot, kind of drifted off towards the end. And frankly, Scott Fitter at the combine talking about Sam Darnold he hasn't really insulted him, but he hasn't been kind, right? Like he didn't live up to our expectations or his own, yada, yada, yada. I think the Panthers are moving. I think if you're going to end up, you have one option, right? Which would be, you're going to have to give up your 6th overall pick, which means that you are limited to free agency to make your offensive line better, which I just don't know that the offensive line free agent market is going to be there enough for the Panthers to make that move. And you're going to have to package probably 3 later round picks, at least 2 later round picks on board, which means you can't even reach and try to get an O-lineman. So if you bring in Russell, or I think, and this is why I've said no to Kirk Cousins, no to Mitchell Trubisky, you bring in any of these cats, you basically decimate your ability to build your offensive line. And I don't care if you stick Aaron Rodgers back there with the offensive line that Carolina put out last year, it's going to be a struggle, which is why I think you have to go with a guy that's already on the roster and use that 6 overall to trade back and pick up 3 or 4 first round, second round, third round graded offensive linemen, or else it won't matter who's playing QB.
Gotcha.
Kenny, appreciate the phone call, bud. Thanks for checking in. I hate that because, like, I felt the optimism in Kenny's voice, Lonzo. You know? Like, I felt you could hear that he's like, we're a quarterback away. And it's like, no, you're not.
He'll be all right. He's a positive guy. You're good.
Oh, I can tell. Kenny's sitting back at the desk with the notepad and the pen. He's going back to work. He's going back to work right now, right? Like, Kenny's putting together a solution. Texas says they restructured another contract and freed up a total of $30 million. Oh, like I said, I don't think the money is the problem, right? I think they can find a way around the money. If they could get a seasoned veteran quarterback in there that is an upgrade, I don't think the money's a problem. Oh, and by the way, after what I think a lot of us would consider a disappointing year for him last year, Robbie Anderson's on the trade block too. Reports are that Carolina and New England had a discussion that would have sent Robbie Anderson up to New England, and it's still alive. It's not a dead discussion yet. Robbie Anderson being traded would free up even more money. The money isn't the issue here. The money's not the issue. The issue with Russell Wilson, just like it will be for any team that makes a push for Aaron Rodgers, if he decides not to take what is being offered to him and described as a, quote, market-altering deal, end quote. Whether it's Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, whoever. The problem the Panthers have with grabbing one of the vet QBs that's up on the block right now, I don't think is the money to sign him. I think it's the capital to get them in the first place, right? Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a guy there is demand for. Kirk Cousins, if he is going to get traded, is a guy there will be demand for. Hell, there's demand for Mitchell Trubisky, right? We told you last week during the Combine. All the reporters at the Combine were saying that Trubisky's name is being tossed around more than Jimmy Garoppolo's. The problem is not, can we afford those guys? Because I think you can with some creative GMing. The problem is, what are you going to offer San Francisco to get Jimmy G? What are you going to offer to Minnesota to get Kirk Cousins? What are you going to offer to Buffalo to get Mitchell Trubisky? Especially considering quarterback free agents are going to be at demand this year, right? What are you going to, if Russell Wilson does decide that he wants to force his way out of Seattle, if he decides he wants to force his way out of Seattle, and Seattle says, you know what, we don't want to fight you, that's fine by us, we're good with it, and he decides he wants to push his way out, what do you offer to get him? What do you offer to bring him in? What do you offer to make him part of the team that Seattle goes, yeah, we'll take that, especially knowing there are a lot of other teams out there that have a lot more draft capital ready to go, right? That has been my problem here. The front office decision-making has put you in a spot where it is going to be very difficult to make an offer that will outcompete other teams looking for a QB. You effectively have the 6th overall pick and a small scattering of later round picks. Do you think if Russell Wilson, if Russ says to Pete Carroll, you know what, I don't like the new system, I'm out later, bye Felicia, right? I'm gone. And Seattle goes, yeah, we're not going to fight you, we're going to put you out there. Lonzo, you think there's a team out there that would be able to come up with a package that is better than 6 overall and a couple of 5ths?
This may bother some people. I don't care. Is he worth that? Because I don't know that he is. Maybe earlier on in his career, he hasn't taken the path of Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't improved year after year. And I don't believe it's the system.
He's not worth it the way that he was worth it about 5 years ago. I do think it is partially the system. I think that Pete Carroll has created a situation where he's like, hey, we're going back to being a run first team, right? We are going to go back to being a small ball team, run the ball, quick outs. And Russell isn't relied on like he used to be, so he doesn't get the chance to show it off anymore.
Well, maybe he's going to that kind of offense because Russell doesn't have it anymore. And one of the things is when you don't have it anymore, a lot of people, when you've had it for a long time, don't realize you don't have it anymore.
I mean, again, it's a risk, right? Now, if you're a team that is a quarterback away, this is why I don't like Russell Wilson to Carolina. If you're a team that's a quarterback away, like you're close, you just need somebody that you trust in the pocket to do it. I roll the dice with Russell, right? Carolina's not a quarterback away. That is not the only position holding them back.
By the way, even though I don't think he's a quarterback he used to be, I would get it if a team took a chance on him. If a team like the one you described, if it is a team like the Rams that are that close, or like the Bucks that are that close, I see them taking a chance on him, and I wouldn't criticize it too much. But any other kind of team, if it's going to take a little bit of a build, how long is he going to stick around?
It's fair. It's fair. All right, let's take a break. Texter says, ESPN, what about Rodgers to Carolina? You certainly don't have the capital for Aaron Rodgers. If Green Bay gives up on Rodgers, which, by the way, Aaron Rodgers is currently contemplating a deal offered to him by the Packers, which is, again, described as, quote, market-altering, end quote, by ESPN. You don't have market-altering capital available to make that move. That's a pipe dream. You have maybe Kirk Cousins capital available. I don't even know if you have Jimmy Garoppolo or Mitchell Trubisky, right? As hot as Trubisky is being talked about, and the fact that Jimmy G has now gone to the NFC Championship game twice, I don't think you have Jimmy G capital either, which means your options are Cam, Sam, maybe Mitchell Trubisky, or one of the three quarterbacks that are first rounders in the draft. That's your options. Who you pick? Back after this on the Rob Brown Show, ESPN Upstate.
Or you package Christian McCaffrey in whatever deal you're trying to make.
More than $27 million over the cap, a little more than a week before the start of the new league year. Rodgers considering his option, return to the Packers, requesting a trade, or retiring. He is expected to make a decision soon. Sources say the Broncos are a team willing to compete to acquire Rodgers, but it's unclear whether Green Bay would even consider a trade at this point. Much more on the story coming up on the 6 Eastern Sports Center on ESPN TV. The Browns place a franchise tag on Untitled Chapter. ESPN's Adam Schefter reports the Chiefs will put the franchise tag on offensive tackle Orlando Brown. The deadline to tie players is
Kobe.
tomorrow.
Kobe.
Starting the week off right. Yeah. Ow. Toes are exposed. Toes hurt when banged into things.
Sure, I can tell you all about why you should buy pool from Aqua Blue Pools. There are lots of reasons, like they've been in business satisfying customers since 1977. They were awarded Best Pool Builder of the Year by Builders and Greenville News. Their design specialists go through extensive training on design and construction, and they have a huge selection and incredible financing options.
So, for some reason, Elden Ring things are popping up on my feed. I don't know why. And sarcasm, by the way. They just showed a sword that shoots out magic.
Really?
You know, I was talking about, is there a spell sword type thing? You've got to have, I think it's 24 intelligence and 20 faith to use the thing. And it's a secret sword where you have to go to a place and jump down a couple of places to get to a stairway. It looks pretty cool. I mean, dude is sitting back like this and then shooting and blasting 2 or 3 guys in a row.
Yeah, I got transported to the hall of the round table of the tarnished or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good place.
So I went there after I lost my 3,200 ruins. I got there and I found the first guy that offered me a healing spell. Didn't have any ruins to buy it. So I'm like, now I got to go back, but I can transport back there. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of your hub if you want it to be, and they're depending on how you interact with some NPCs, others will show back up there and be able to do some things for you, including enhance things.
Yeah.
So if you talk to an NPC and they're still there, just keep talking to them. So every NPC I see, I talk till they start repeating.
Yeah.
And then some, especially there, some interactions in the round table will send you from one NPC to another, back and forth till a conversation's over, and it will unlock some stuff, which I never would have known if I hadn't looked it up. So I'm looking for every advantage I can find, and I still can't beat that stupid boss. I'm going to do it, though. You telling me about the buff thing, that helps, because if I do get to a point where I don't think I'm ever going to get past it, I will bring Cameron back, and now we are level.
Yeah, both level up.
Keegan, I don't think it matters what Panther fans think about McCaffrey. I think it's if the team have they soured on him, and I think it comes down to if he could have an entirely healthy season, and then you can see if he's diminished. And I don't think he has. I just think they're using him the wrong way, putting him in a position to get hurt. ESPN was up on the background. They were asking, and one of the guys said the Chiefs, I'm completely fine with that. We'll take him. Even if he's injured half the season, we'll take him.
Save him till the playoffs.
Second half. That's right.
Till the playoffs. Texas says, Rob, what about Gardner Minshew for the Panthers? Oh, please. Please let me go watch Gardner Minshew play in person. I am begging you. I love that dude. Just a guy, man.
Okay, so that wasn't sarcasm. You genuinely okay.
No, I love Gardner. I think Gardner got a raw deal in Jacksonville, just like everybody that's in Jacksonville. I think he got to Philly. I think he showed out for a minute. I don't know that Gardner Minshew's taking you to the Super Bowl, but I'd love to watch him play more in person for sure. For sure. Texas says, what if one of the quarterbacks in the trade block is worth a straight trade for CMC? They're not. They're not. You got to put more on that. If CMC was a healthy guy, yeah, I would say. But again, like where? The Vikings already got Dalvin Cook. They're good. I mean, if he's 100% healthy, I'm sure Seattle might consider a trade straight up for Russ. But I can't trade you. I can't trade you a starting quarterback for a guy who might play one out of every 3 or 4 games, right? That's the problem you're going to bump into. He is going to end up having to be a part of a package deal. And that's it. We were just looking at we just had ESPN, ESPN, that's in French. Les ESPN.
ESPN.
We just had Les ESPN on during the break there, and they were asking the question, what team is the best fit for Christian McCaffrey? And I don't know if you saw this, Lonzo, but of the 5 inside the NFLers that they asked, only one of them mentioned a team that has a quarterback for trade. It was San Francisco, right? The only team that they mentioned as a good fit for CMC that had a QB for trade. They mentioned Arizona, Green Bay, I think.
Buffalo and Kansas City.
Buffalo and Kansas City, yeah.
No, I think I saw Denver in there also.
Maybe you get him for, but do you want to trade CMC for Mitchell Trubisky straight up?
That
might be available.
Would you trade him for Jimmy G?
I would if I'm Carolina. I would, right? It solves a lot of your problems and leaves you your 6th-round pick and gives you a guy that has been tantalizingly close to the dance.
What would Panther fans think about that, though? You got
to be happy about it, right?
Christian McCaffrey for, I don't know.
Hey, you got to be happy about it.
You know, I get it. I get it. I don't know if I'd be happy about it or not. I'd wait till halfway through the season to find out. Because if you trade Christian to San Francisco and suddenly he's killing it there and he's healthy, and Garoppolo's doing nothing. I mean, but that's a risk you take when you trade anybody.
So, guy I follow named Cody on Twitter just put out a very interesting thought. And he said, what if Deshaun is back in the mix, right? What if Deshaun's back in the mix? Because we know earlier I guess late last year, the Panthers made a play and Deshaun said no, he would not waive his no trade clause to Carolina. But at the time, Miami was still in the mix and Philadelphia was still in the mix. Both places that Deshaun's people have said he would be willing to waive his no trade clause to go play. Well, Miami has now said Deshaun Watson is no longer an option. And Philadelphia has said that Deshaun Watson is no longer an option, which means that the list of teams interested in Deshaun Watson has shrunk down to like 2, right? And Carolina's one of them. The Panthers still interested in making a play for Deshaun. And if Deshaun's the guy, you probably get him for a good deal because there are going to be some teams that go, I don't need the baggage. I don't need the baggage of his personal life. I don't need the PR nightmare of trying to justify why we're bringing this guy in. So the only question there remains, can Deshaun clear his name? But here's the thing. If you're the Panthers, you got to roll the dice. Because if Deshaun Watson clears his name, which again, with 22 plus lawsuits out there, good luck. But if Deshaun Watson clears his name, everybody's back in, right? Philly's back in, Miami's back in, everybody's back in at that point. They can say they're not, but they are. Which means if you're Carolina, if you want to get this dude, you got to convince the Texans to trade him to you while the legal cloud is still shadowing him. And then just roll the dice and hope that he's able to get out from underneath it without being suspended for a year or longer and going to jail for a handful of years. In which case, you don't get it. There's no compensatory picks or anything back for that. You got screwed. So for those of you saying Deshaun's still on the table, right? Because this guy I follow said the Panthers are making all these contract moves to free up cap space in order to sign Deshaun Watson. Tell me I'm wrong. Again, how are you going to get him? Are you going to bring him with the baggage and criminal charges still floating and take the risk, roll the dice? Or are you going to wait for him to be cleared of that if he is and then make a push for him there? Because I got to tell you, if you do that, you're going to be paying a lot more for him as well because everybody's going to be back in, right? So how do you make that move? I just don't know that it's viable. Texas says, Panthers through free agency, build the O-line, get Minshew, and draft Willis. I would just take Malik Willis, right? I would just take I love Gardner Minshew. I do. I think he's a bro. I'd like to hang out and grab a beer and kill some fish with Gardner Minshew. I like the guy. But what is Gardner Minshew going to teach Malik Willis that he can't just learn by playing football, right? Locker room etiquette? He'll learn that quick. If you draft him, he's a franchise guy.
Mustache growth.
Yeah, honestly. That's it. How to catch a largemouth bass. I don't know how much help that's going to be for Malik, right? So I get the premise, and it's not awful. But again, Darnold's still there. What are you going to do with that? There's still a lot of questions. Still a lot of questions. I am not envious of those who have to make the call and figure out what they're going to do for the Panthers quarterback situation. That's it. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. Twitter Trending Topics wraps it all up on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Tell you about my friends at Prisma Health. When I moved here, to the upstate. Obviously, one of the first things I needed to figure out was, hey, if I need a doctor, and I will because I'm clumsy. If I need a doctor, who am I going to go see? And when I started asking around, the most popular answer I got was Prisma. Now we all know that popular doesn't equal good, right? So then I looked into Prisma, and when I looked into Prisma, I found out exactly why. Prisma Health has locations scattered all around the upstate. So there is a Prisma Health facility somewhere convenient and close to you. Prisma's got thousands of doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals in their network. So no matter what type of medical care you need, whether you're fighting a sleep disorder or you need psychiatric care or orthopedic care or you or someone you love is fighting cancer, they have got someone close to you who is knowledgeable, who is trained, who is up to date on the newest, best, brightest technologies and sciences to help you, and they can see you right now. Doesn't matter what you're struggling with. Doesn't matter what kind of healthcare you need. If you are in need of orthopedic care, you know, we're a sports station. We got athletes around the upstate listening to us. If you are in need of an orthopedic procedure, they have got you covered with not one, but two different orthopedic dedicated facilities that are also available on demand. So you find yourself in a pickup soccer game on a Saturday morning and that ankle pops on you, there's somebody there from Prisma ready to help you on the spot. If you want to learn more, go to prismahealth.org. Prismahealth.org. It's our friends at Prisma Health right here in the upstate. All the TVs went away.
They did. Weird.
Hey, it's Don with American Made Windows. Are you getting a tax refund? If so, do the smart thing and invested in beautiful, energy-efficient windows from American Made Windows. Right now, you can really stretch that refund to $50 off per window or 12 months same as cash for qualified purchasers and buyers. Visit amwupstate.com or call 334-6030 for details. That's 334-6030. And remember, the best windows are American made.
Golfers, the best upstate deal on golf is back and on sale now. The 2022 Upstate Golf Card gets you a round of golf at 10 premier upstate courses, and it's still only $99. Grab your foursome and get your Upstate Golf Cards now to play courses including Greer Golf,
Texas says ESPN trending. Hashtag 4 inches is huge. Been around the country. Rejoice. Dumbass ex-girlfriend didn't know boat. Oh, God. Ten days till St. Patrick's Day. We got to find some Irish music. I will find the Irish music.
Dude, it's not that hard to find music. You see me making a face. I was making a face about the TV not being.
Oh.
And wondering if it's. Okay, so it may just be the channel. Or it may be the cable.
Motorcycle sounds. If you hear this, in 15 seconds, you already know that it's a 6-speed cruiser with a wheelbase of 120 inches.
I know they are working on the heating and air.
I saw that.
And so happens a lot. Oops. You know, you were witness Saturday to the most mistakes I've made in like 5 years.
Yeah, but you got thrown into the fire on that
Yeah,
one.
but still, it was not. My head was somewhere else. And I just, yeah. There's simple mistakes, but they're mistakes that Tim makes every week, and I make fun of them. And then I
now
did
you
them.
can't, at least for a
Oh
week.
no, I still make fun of them. And I got to come on Saturday and still noob myself twice because I'm not. I know it's owed. All right, time for Twitter trending topics, where I tell Rob what is trending on the internet, and he will tell the entire universe why it's trending. This is kind of obvious when I say what it is. It's National Cereal Day.
National Cereal Day. Top 3, Lonzo.
Count Chocula, Cocoa Puffs, and Chocolate Pebbles.
Chocolate Pebbles, not the Fruity Pebbles.
The chocolate Pebbles. I know John Cena over here.
I had to tell you, I get the I get a lot of influence from my pops. Raisin Bran.
I love Raisin Bran.
Remains
Yeah,
a
it's still
top
good.
tier cereal. Remains a top tier cereal. Fruit Loops are still phenomenal. Still can't hate on the Fruit Loops. And every now and then Lucky Charms. I do like Lucky Charms regularly, but every now and then Lucky Charms puts winner chicken dinner.
All right, so the commonality of my cereals are chocolate. Yours are just straight up sugar.
Yep. I will eat Lucky Charms marshmallows just straight out the bag.
When the milk hurts your teeth afterwards because there's so much sugar in it, it's probably not a good move. There are some bad cereals out there, but for the most part, cereal,
man.
It's good. I mean, unless you want some Kix, I just never understood Kix or Mueslix because it's like eating Twix. But
Never have, never will.
All right, the next thing trending is Liechtenstein.
Liechtenstein, the great country of Liechtenstein. Sanctions on Russia.
Yeah, see, when I see Liechtenstein trending, I think A Knight's Tale.
Heath Ledger.
Because
movie.
He said he was from Liechtenstein. He made up a song and all that kind of stuff. But apparently there's a list of countries that that Russia has put out has offended them, and Liechtenstein is on there. And I just got to say, I didn't know it was a real country. I thought some extra countries.
So Liechtenstein is real, and from what I understand, it's a beautiful country, like a beautiful country. At this point, isn't being labeled as offensive by Russia kind of like a feather in the cap?
I suppose it is.
We do not like you. Ah, sweet, we did it.
And Liechtenstein's like, no. We didn't do anything. We're just over here minding our own business. Sorry,
they hurt the feelings of all 60 Liechtensteinians.
Yes, they're very upset and they're cowering, and they should be. All right, Vader is trending. Wrong one.
Big Van Vader, the goat big man. What's he trending for?
He is the next guy being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Very nice. All right, good for
So
him.
there was rumor that maybe it would just be the Undertaker.
Yeah.
But if you're going to put another guy in, Vader
Big
with
Man Vader's the way
Undertaker,
to go.
I'm down with that.
Vader was phenomenal. Vader broke every big man stereotype, and it was incredible. Love that dude. And with the mask, he just looked freaky.
Yeah, the mask was just, and it's so simple.
Think Triple H wants into AEW yet? William Regal's all elite.
Triple H to ROH.
Why not? Triple H and William Regal running RH and just make NXT great again.
There we go.
All right, that's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Diesel and Mark Ryan are up next. Make sure that you fill up their text line with your favorite cereal takes, start to finish. Text them about cereal the whole time. We're out. See you tomorrow back here on the Rob Brown Show and ESPN Upstate. Later, brother. Adios, stream.